Okay, so what I'm going to present on today is the strategy that I came up with that helped me land my first 100 paying nutrition clients. You're going to be able to work this stuff into your own coaching, even if you're just getting started in nutrition coaching and adding that into your fitness business, or if you're an established coach and you're looking for different ways to take people from curious and turn them into paying clients. I think you're going to take a lot away from this today. Every personal trainer should offer nutrition coaching. I've been on my soapbox yelling this to anyone who will listen, because as you guys know, 90% of your clients are going to want to change their body composition. And a large component of that, a large influencer of that process will be not what they do within a 1 hour session with you, it's what they do in the other 23 hours. And nutrition is going to have a huge influence on that. So when we're able to control for that stuff, fitness and nutrition are going to work hand in hand to deliver the best results. And when you get better results, we know very much training, coaching, nutrition coaching, all of this stuff is very much a results-based business. When you can deliver results, you're going to have happier clients, you're going to get more referrals, your clients will hang around with you for longer, and you'll boost your income. So it's very important that we can handle this aspect of the health process and then go from there. Many times, we already had a comment here where it's like, well, I don't really know how to deliver this stuff and what's the best thing. I mean, we can't do it within sessions. We can't do it just kind of give them a habit or a tip here or there. They're going to want an integrated coaching process along with your training. And when you do this the right way, you can integrate nutrition coaching as a standalone product, a standalone thing that you charge for that helps your clients get even better results into your existing training systems. And what I'll present today is going to be a way to get that rolling. Why we're here today, I'm going to teach you about the process that I put in place. We call it the free nutrition report in the Dr. Marc Method. This is the process that helped me land my first paying clients after kind of a bit of a struggling start as well. What I think it does a good job of is it takes people that are messaging you that are, if this is your side hustle and you're in the workroom and they're asking, the people that already know you as the fitness person or the trainer, it takes them when they're curious about these things. What diet should I try? Dr. Marc, should I be taking protein? Should I be taking protein powder? Those type of things. Taking people that are curious about what it could look like to transform their health through nutrition and turning them into paying clients. That's what we're going to talk about here today. By the end of this webinar, what you're going to do is be able to, and again, if I think back about philosophy wise, identify what converts people from curious to paying. What do they need to see? What do they need to hear? What do they need to understand to be able to take this leap and sign up for your nutrition coaching? You'll be able to explain how to take a lead and flow them through this process step by step, and hopefully understand why they go from step to step and what you're doing to encourage that. And then develop a plan to land your next paying client. Let's check this out. Before me, a little about me. Why should you listen to me today? My name is Dr. Marc Morrison from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. I see some chats about nutrition certifications in there. There's tons of good ones. I'm the founder and the creator of the Dr. Marc Method, which is a 90-day nutrition coaching program. Cover the basic science and the nutrition side of things in terms of how to apply it to a coaching model, but also the business side of things and how to get clients and how to leverage your skills and show up online and market yourself and get your first paying nutrition client. So that's what I've been up to for the last 6 years. I've been an online nutrition coach since 2011. You're going to hear about my humble beginnings in a second here. But even when I was working with people that were primarily in my local geographical area, I was still doing everything online because, as you guys know, Everfit, coaching software company, technology is the best way for us to scale our services and get in front of more people and leverage the amount of help we can provide to many. So even what we got to do to leverage technology is very, very important. I live in Saskatoon with my beautiful family. I'm looking at this picture here. I was like, how did I get so lucky? Who am I fooling? That is my beautiful wife, Amy, and son, Max, and Madeline. And I'm in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan here. It's story time. You guys ready for a story? My humble beginnings. Way back when, my first chance at nutrition coaching. To tell you a little bit more about myself, I said a little bit in the intro here. I have a PhD in human nutrition. Even during my PhD, I was completely into coaching. I was like, man, people are going to pay me to do this stuff and help them. And in the same way that nutrition very much shaped my life, it was just the coolest thing. But before that, I was a strength coach and nutrition coach doing everything online. But even before that, my undergrad degree is in chemistry. I knew almost within months of entering this program that I did not want to be a chemist. Everyone around me was loving it, which was great. I was around a good group of people and learning science and applying myself and that type of stuff. But I knew I didn't want to be a chemist. At that same point, I was like completely head over heels infatuated, focused on fitness and nutrition. I hung out in the weight room. I was very much a gym rat. I did everything I could. Basically, when I should have been studying and in the lab, I was online reading on, T Nation, which is, I think, T Muscle now. Basically, everything I could consume with nutrition, training, and fitness. And through that process of just being a gym rat and learning lots, people started to like recognize that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Maybe I should talk to him about this or get a plan or whatever it is. And I remember my first opportunity to coach someone. It's 2007. I was in the middle of midterms and spring break was coming up. And I remember this guy that was like a bit of an acquaintance came to me. I was becoming known as like the go-to fitness person. And he's like, hey, Mark, I want to get ripped for spring break. Like, what do I need to do? And I remember thinking, this is cool. Someone wants to, at this point, personal training and fitness instructing and that stuff was very much a thing, but the coaching world wasn't really developed in the same way that we know it now. It just wasn't the same thing. Maybe you hired a trainer and stuff, but you didn't hire someone to coach you. Most people were self-taught and maybe there's some like bodybuilding stuff going on, but for like general lifestyle population stuff, like you didn't hire a coach. And I remember this being like, this is my first chance at coaching someone. This is so exciting. So I remember thinking, hey, what do I need to do here to coach this person? I remember asking him, like, when do you need a plan? Like, yeah, I'll write you a plan. I can do this stuff. Like, when do you need it? And he's like, well, I'd like to start right away. Can you give it to me, by tomorrow kind of thing? And I'm like, this is the coolest. So I went down this path of staying up all night when I should have been studying. I remember like, I had a midterm, maybe it wasn't the next day, but it was days after. And I remember thinking like I should be studying, but I wrote down everything I knew about this stuff, a detailed plan from nutrition to training, exactly what I need to be doing, tips, strategies, all this stuff. And I remember staying up all night doing it and hitting that send button, sending it off to him and being like, this is amazing. I'm coaching someone. I remember seeing him a few days later and excited to ask him how things were going and dive into things and, start the process around making any adjustments or changing things for him or, seeing how it was going and how he's enjoying it. And like my stomach just sank because when I asked him, how's everything going? He's like, to be honest, I haven't opened it yet. And he wouldn't open it. He wouldn't do the plan. He wasn't going to take that next step, even though he said that he wanted to. He never would do any of this stuff. And I remember thinking at that moment, wow, like something's got to be different here. If I'm ever going to like help people, I'm going to need to go about this a different way. So at that point, I remember thinking something's got to change here and I have to go about this a different way so that people actually do this stuff. And if I ever want to get people to pay me for this stuff, obviously something's going to have to be more professional. And there's this aching feeling that I was missing something. Now I wanted you guys to take a moment and pause and think, do you find yourself in these situations? If you are an established trainer, are there moments where you're giving people advice and they're not following up on it, or they're not taking the next step, or they're not, maybe, you present something to someone and they're ghosting when it is time to take the next step? What are some of those reasons why this could be? Let me know in the chat. I'm waiting for you here in terms of what are some of we're going to talk about the reasons, but why do you think someone doesn't take this next step? What are some of those reasons? Scared to change, Dan, that's a really, really good one. Timing. Some people aren't willing to make changes in the moment. Even just like this person, saying, hey, I want to do this, but I'm not really sure. Lots of work, procrastination, fear. lack of belief that they're going to be able to achieve result. People have other commitments. They don't know where to start. It feels overwhelming. Lack of faith in the program. The pain of staying the same isn't strong enough yet. Amika, that's a great one, right? Like what they're currently experiencing doesn't outweigh all this work and time and constraints of getting there. Unsure about discipline with the program. These are all really, really good ones. All reasons. What I'm going to present today is going to show you a way to get people involved in this process so they do see the value. They can start to see that they can change and do the time, and start to get them bought in right from the beginning. In the Dr. Marc Method, our nutrition certification, we call this the free nutrition report. And this is what I'm going to present today. After I got that kind of wake up call from that potential client that I would spend, 3 hours creating a program for that they would never do, I knew I needed to do things differently. So what I did is that, and this came with some trial and error. I'm going to present the finished product today in terms of what we teach. But I started to play around with getting them to do some work up front, which automatically pre-qualified them that they would do some work, right? Just like this individual, he said he wanted to do it, but he didn't need to do it. I see Katie now saying they don't value the advice because it's free. Absolutely. That's part of it, right? Those who pay attention. So if you can work into presenting them in a way where they see the value, be it charge for it or put things in place to get to the place where they charge for it, we do a lot better. But when I got them to start doing some stuff up front, I was able to collect some information that was, pertinent to their goals and what they wanted to achieve. And then through that process, show them that was holding them back from reaching their goals. Instead of just educating people, if I could show them on an individual level what was holding them back from their goals, they would see that I had the path to results, right? So I laid the path to results moving forward, and it is a natural. If you're worried about selling your services or being a salesperson, if you can show them that you have the path to get exactly where they want to be, nothing is too expensive, nothing is too unsure, they're going to see that you're the person that can help them. And it makes a natural segue into pitching coaching. So let's talk about this process here. When I started doing it, I remember the first time someone paid me for this stuff, it was the coolest thing in the entire world. I remember specifically a guy at the gym. It was like probably 2011, and he was asking me, "Hey, what do you do with nutrition? I see you're training for this, and you're looking great. Like, what is it?" And I remember thinking, "Hey, this is the time I'm going to try this out. Hey, instead of me just telling you what I do here, why don't I show you? Why don't you start by doing this?" Collecting some information, specifically around what they want to accomplish, but then getting them to do some of the work up front, then showing them what they're on an individual level doing and what's holding them back from reaching their goals, and then telling them what the coaching process would look like. This is the process that got my first paying client, then my next 10, and finally my first 100 paying nutrition clients. And it's great for those who have people that are around them that are curious about this next step and what it would take. Here's how you're going to do it. And I'm going to break down these steps in a second. But the first thing we want to do is, regardless of what someone's asking us, if it's a question about should they do the keto diet or the carnivore diet, or what's up with these, what's up with creatine, should I be taking it? What we want to do is always collect what's important to them, specifically their goals. I want to create a form that is like really low friction that we can send people to, that'll give them some idea of what they want to accomplish. And that is our leverage. That's our ammo. Like, all this information can be helpful, but what is going to make it convert is when you present it in a way that shows people how they're going to get a specific result. And when you know what that is, you can always speak to that specific thing. Once we have their information, what we're going to do is get them to actually track their nutrition. For what this process is going to do is, instead of being like, do you want a nutrition program? It's like, show me you're going to do some of the things that a nutrition coaching program requires. It automatically pre-qualifies them. Then when they have that information back over to us, we can go through it and talk through it, and assess where they're at, point out a few things through just presenting it in a report. That's what we call it, which is going to automatically show you're a smart cookie that still eats cookies, as well as that you have that path to results. It's automatic value, right? And you got to remember, Many people read about this stuff. They read magazines, they hear stuff on TV, but this has never been done for them on an individual level. The fourth step, present coaching and present a deadline. And from there, you can sign up, existing clients by adding nutrition coaching in, or new clients just through this easy process. Okay, let's break down the steps here. The first step being collect their goals. Again, regardless of what they want, like you want to get a sense of what they're trying to accomplish. I wouldn't call it a sneaky trick, but it's strategically, instead of asking like name, email, phone number, all the contact information first on application forms, I try to get in the first most pressing question right off the bat. Because when people start on that process, number one, I make sure I get it, but they start to tell you what they want and what it's going to take to get there and what is important to them, they're more likely to fill out the rest. And then from that point, we just want some basic questions to get a sense of how to respond back to them, as well as what they've tried in the past, what they feel like they need, and how ready they are to change. An initial application form shouldn't be tons of friction. I see all these beautiful type forms out there with animations and questions and all that stuff, which is great. But the primary objective in this first form is for it to be low friction. We want people to fill it out. We want them to be able to fill it out within a few minutes, not have to think about it too much, and start this process. Again, as trainers, coaches, people that are into this stuff, Marcus, I'll definitely address that one in terms of price and how to put this all together in a second. But through this process, what we're going to do is we just want people, we want to sign it up and we want to get them making decisions that, yes, they want to start this process out, right? We're in the decision-making business. And if we do too much stuff to make it, I know I'm going to do this later, this is too much time, all that stuff, it's going to be too much for them to do. Second step, we got all that information. We know what they want. We know what they feel like, is holding them back. We know how ready they are to change all those things. Personally, I don't know how much you guys use video-based stuff within your coaching already. I'm going to send them over a Loom video, which is like screen recording, capture technology, speaking over what it is, even if we're just repeating things back, to get people to hear me speak about what's important to them. If you think about your favorite actor or movie star, you feel it's almost like you know them a bit, right? Because you've heard them speak so much. Like if you were to get in a room with them, you feel like you almost have a relationship already. You kind of know what they're about, what they would say, what you would say to them. And that's all because you've seen them on camera. The more we can do stuff that gets us on camera and speaking to people on a one-on-one basis, the better off we'll be. So I would respond to a Loom video. I'd also ask them in that moment, based on what you've submitted here, again, even if they're like asking about protein powder, it's like, hey, I know you were asking about protein powder, but just to make sure that it fits within what you want to accomplish, and I can answer that question as well as talk to you a little bit more about your goals. Why don't we get you tracking your nutrition for 3 to 5 days to take a food diary and turn it into some objective numbers that we know would be holding them back from reaching their goals. I'm going to answer a bunch of questions at the end, but this one, Haley, is pertinent when it says, what if they don't even know how to track? To me, that's a great objection around this type of stuff. To me, awareness around, number one, they might not know what a protein is or the individual macronutrients, the large components of our food that, contain calories and that make up our nutrition and that type of stuff. If they can keep a food diary though, they're going to start the tracking process. Basically, all we're doing is keeping a food diary that's digital, that we then can take a look at the individual nutrition and go from there. They might not need to start the tracking process around aiming for certain targets, which we'll get them to do in a second with our actual coaching offer. But we want to get them the process of actually logging things digitally, which makes it easy to start to take a look at things on an individual nutrient basis, as well as bigger picture trends as well. So my recommendation around that would be throw them in the fire, get them tracking. A lot of people say, hey, you need a PhD to track your nutrition. I think you need a PhD not to track your nutrition. If people can run a basic finance budget for themselves, they can get closer to the big picture components of the nutrition that they need to be doing to reach their goals. So I'd get them tracking their nutrition, regardless if it's going to be quote unquote right would be the biggest thing. Tracking is an awareness tool that will start to highlight some of these things for us. So in terms of the actual verbiage and language, repeating this stuff over. There's plenty of good tracking apps, as well as what's going on with that Everfit. We just want to get them the tracking process and then go from there. Once they have the 5 days complete, they let you know, and you're going to start collecting this information. The process that I am teaching here and that you can use is like sending over a shared Google sheet to capture this information. If you're wondering about some of these resources, I'm going to make it very easy for you. I'm going to package these all up at the end so you can download, start using them, start toying around with different things without a doubt, start putting them into action. But we want to get them to, with their information, again, once you track for a day, you're going to be able to see, a report and put this stuff into action. You can take this stuff and start, pumping in a sheet, taking a look at things. I think what's most important though, regardless of how you're collecting the information, is you want to take a look at what is happening on a daily basis for their calorie intake in terms of their, energy level, as well as what's happening on protein, carbohydrates, and fat, like the macronutrients, the large components of our food that contribute to these calories. When we can see those on a daily basis, we can start to compare where they're at compared to optimal ranges and start to point out immediately what they need to be doing differently based on their nutrition habits and all that objective stuff. So we get them to do this stuff, report it back to them. Again, this is stuff that I do even if a client is just curious about a question or working with me, because the process starts to show value. And don't worry, I am going to package all this stuff up so you can take a closer look at it and how to put it into action near the end here. At this point, though, what we've done so far with this client is it served two purposes. We've got someone doing the work upfront. So spring break guy isn't just going to waste my time in a conversation telling me they want something or that, or even if I got that guy to sign up at the beginning and then send him off a plan and he never did it either, that's not going to be good for my business ultimately, right? Yeah, I get a paycheck, that type of thing, but it's not going to help me get referrals, develop my skills, and then kind of go from there. Next up though, it also gives me the opportunity to flash my knowledge and show that I have an actual path to results. We can do this through the assessment process, and we're taking a look at things. Here's a client that gave me 5 days worth of data, which would be pretty typical. There's some trends which I'll talk about in a second. But for the most part, I'm seeing, hey, here's what's holding you back. Your protein intake at 0.68 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is way below the optimal range for someone that wants to get leaner and gain muscle and improve their body composition. That'd be the first thing I would change and address. And here are some of the ways to do it. Other than that, your energy intake is also on the lower end of things. So if you continue to eat this way, you would see results and you would get leaner, which we see throughout this process, right? Someone starts tracking their nutrition, automatically their weight comes down. They are now in a calorie deficit. And we have proof of that because it's actually happening in front of us. Even though there's some swings in, water balance and that type of stuff, the process is happening, right? So we point this stuff out to them. I've done this process upwards of, I think I've completed it successfully 5,000 times, but I've looked at tens of thousands of food logs. And there's 3 main trends that go on with this stuff when someone starts reporting this data to you. The first one, most obvious one, and you guys are probably well aware of this, is low protein. They're just not eating enough protein. There's going to be some meals that don't include a protein source. There's going to be some meals that just don't have enough. And as I think what Haley was mentioning either, sometimes they don't even know what protein is and what it consists of and the common foods that it's consumed with, right? That's one of the first things that we can point out. But even if we know this, the process of getting someone to do it, look at it, identify for themselves, and then have an expert tell them on an individual level they're not doing it can be really powerful stuff. You're also going to see that their food levels day to day are wildly all over the place. Like they're not calorie cycling on purpose. What they're doing is getting busy with life with no established food habits or anything like that, or things to shoot towards. and they're going to have days of under eating and overeating. What tends to happen is people have an idea, especially if they have weight loss goals, they have an idea of what healthy eating looks like. And it's usually overly restrictive and not enough food. And they do that for a period of time until they're in a different food environment, socially, or they're ordering food or takeout or pizza and that kind of thing. And then they overeat, right? And this is the process that continues through time, and how they have subpar body composition because things are all over the place. It's kind of a chicken or egg scenario, right? In terms of what happened first. Is it the under eating or the overeating? Probably a combination of both. And if we can get them eating similarly most days, again, not every day is going to be the same, especially if you have changes in energy expenditure and that kind of stuff. But most days are pretty similar, especially if you have something to shoot for. There's also scenarios where, hey, someone's tracking looks pretty good, and you can tell right off the bat that they're taking this seriously, and things start to fall in place already for them. They start moving in the right direction. They start feeling better already. I've had people that I just tell them to start tracking, and they try to send me over a payment. They're like, hey, your coaching is so great. Thanks for helping me out already. I'm like, I haven't even done anything yet. You're just starting to pay attention to what you're doing. And awareness is a very, very powerful tool. It doesn't matter if you have a tracking-based approach or food rules or whatever it is. As soon as you start paying attention to what you're doing, things tend to start moving in the right direction. But at this point, you start to point this stuff out. With this client specifically, I was like, hey, your protein intake is way lower than it needs to be. You're also, under eating, which shows me that you're in the calorie deficit. And that's why you lost 3 or 4 pounds right off the bat. Some of that water, without a doubt, but it's also showing you that they are eating less calories than they need. Some of that is going to be fat as well. Then we put all this stuff together. It's like, hey, thanks for doing this for me. Your goal is this, and here's what I'm seeing based on what you're doing right now that could be holding you back. Here are the things that I would address for right now, in terms of this and this. Based on what I'm observing, I know exactly how to help you, and here's how I would do it. And this is what my coaching would look like. At that point, you can invite them into your coaching program. Tell them that you put a coaching roster spot aside for them and what that process would entail. I'm not sure if you guys have ever read the book Influence, but one of the principles that, the psychology of persuasion, one of the principles that talks about is that when you give someone like this, the gift of reciprocity in terms of they've gotten something valuable from you, they're more likely to take that next step because they feel indebted and they feel like you've helped them, right? So tell them why they'd be a good fit. Hold a coaching spot for them. This is what it would look like. Hold a coaching spot till a certain date for them would be my most important recommendation here. Remember, deadlines drive decisions. Not sure if anyone's gotten married recently. Our wedding was like 8 years ago now, but it still is burning in my mind around needing people to RSVP for your wedding, right? You invite these people to the most important day of your life, and you need to tell them and set a deadline around when they need to do a certain thing by. Tell me if you're coming by this date. And it's crazy that the most important day of your life, you still need to tell people when to do something by. They don't just tell you immediately or think about it. And that's because deadlines drive decisions. People aren't going to make things a priority unless you tell them to make it a priority. So when you're like, hey, you're a good fit, I want you to work with me. Here's how you're going to get results. There's a coaching spot with your name on it right now, but it's only going to be available until Friday. Can you let me know by then? Then they'll be more likely to take that next step. Now, if you're already an Everfit user, at this point in the process, you can conveniently sell and onboard new clients using, Everfit's payment processing system and their payment link. And then from that assessment data, you can set goals, set them up on a nutrition plan, and use some of the features that are already integrated into the coaching software to completely run with this process. Now, this is the free nutrition report is a process that helped me land my first paying 100 clients. It took me like too long to figure it out. I know you heard about those humble beginnings, and maybe it felt like I sped up there a little bit in terms of the couple of years and putting it into action, but it was frustrating to figure out. But this is the process we teach in our certification, among many other things. But it's worked for me. It's worked for the 400 coaches that have worked through it, and I'm sure it'll work for you too. And I want you to put it into action. So I'm going to give you everything you need to run with this process. but only under one condition. And I'm happy to give it to you. But I want you to commit to following through with this and going through it with an actual person. There's many ways you can find this person. If you're an existing trainer, you have an active audience of people that are already looking to you for this stuff. So just make it known. If you have people that are curious about this stuff, try it out on them. Like if they're curious about coaching, but they haven't taken that next step. Elise, I think we're going through how to get the lead right now, which is exciting. But if they're not taking that next step, it's probably because they don't see the value in it yet. They don't know how coaching compares to something like an ebook or a YouTube video or an informational product or a supplement, right? They just know health information. But coaching is that process where you're working with an individual with a shared goal, and kind of go from there. So Stella, say, hey, I got something I want you to try. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to get results. You ready to do this? You could tell people in your social circle that they're always like shoulder tapping you, right? Hey, there's people that already look to you for this type of information. You just got to give them the opportunity to take the next step. And this type of process is great for that. You could also discuss it with your existing training clients, or you could put this stuff out on social media. Hey, I got this brand new nutrition coaching process that I want to try out. So I'm looking for 3 people that know their nutrition is holding them back, but I don't know where to start. You could do something more results focused, right? Hey, who wants to lose 5 pounds before we head into the holiday season in the next 4 weeks? Or even do it through the holidays. It won't be that hard. Drop an emoji and I'll show you how, and kind of go from there. The biggest thing being, if you're struggling to get leads, your first 5 to 10 paying clients are going to come from your immediate social circle. Social media and getting people that don't necessarily know you to go down this process with you can happen, but it's not likely to happen at the beginning. What you want to do is give people that are already around you the opportunity to take this next step. And it can be really simple. The next time someone asks you, Stella, Elise, like what's new with you? Don't just say, hey, nothing. It's like, hey, I'm working on my nutrition coaching. I've been, really getting things going. Do you know anyone that'd be interested in like losing some weight or gaining some muscle or just improving their energy levels? Just make it obvious that there's a coach or there's a step to work with you in the next step. If you guys have any more questions about lead generation and that type of stuff, especially when it comes to nutrition clients, I'm all ears. Okay. If you benefit from this webinar, and again, I want to say thank you to Everfit for having me on and sharing what I know. Download the free nutrition report materials and do this process with someone. If you want me to take a look at what you're doing, you can tag me in social media. That would be great. I'd love to hear about what you're up to. You're going to get these materials in an email because you signed up for this webinar. But if you wanted to download it and get started right away, I have the link right here as well. Should be able to click on that and start the process of downloading the resources and getting some information about how to put it into practice.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Mark. This has been super insightful. I know I learned a lot.
Good.
So I'm sure plenty of other people did as well. Like I mentioned before, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Mark. His Instagram's right there on the page. He sent the link in the chat earlier as well. If you lost that link or any of the other links, don't stress. It'll all be in the email that we'll send out to you in the next couple of days, including the link to the recording as well. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, other than that, just wanted to say thank you all again for coming, and a huge thanks to Mark and his team for putting this on. It's been really insightful, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much for having me. I hope you'll have me back.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Sounds good. Bye.